BodyBags, where horror lies.
Welcome back to BodyBags. This is week number 385. I'll be your host, Jason from Horrific Nightmares, filling in for Chris B. Movies. Now, this is label week, and the label is MGM Midnite Movies. And this week, I picked I Bury the Living. I Bury the Living is a 1958 film which runs approximately 77 minutes and is directed by Albert Ban. Now, unfortunately, he passed away on June the 14th, 2002 at the age of 78. He was responsible for Prehysteria 1 and 2, Ghoulies 2, and Dr. Mordred, which had me thinking, Albert Band, could he be Charles Band's father? Yes, he is. Amazing how I put that together, huh? Alright, this stars Richard Boone as Robert Kraft. He passed away on January 10th, 1981 at the age of 63. He was in The Big Sleep, The Shootist, and he actually did a voice over for one of my favorite cartoons of all time, the original Hobbit, done by Rankin Bass. And he played the part of Smaug. This also stars Theodore Raquel as Andy McKee. He passed away on July 21st, 2015 at the age of 91. He was in The Defiant Ones, My Fair Lady, and The African Queen. And Peggy Maurer as Anne Craig. She passed away on July 27th, 2012 at the age of 81. Now, she did pretty much strictly TV. She did do one TV movie, and that was the Peter Pan TV movie, but she was pretty much just television. I Bury the Living. This movie was so much fun. I really enjoyed this, and I had never seen it before. I had actually picked this up. Rob and I were talking about, different releases on Midnite Movies, and I had mentioned that the flea market I go to, I had seen this one. I didn't know if they still had it, but I was going to pick it up if they did. Sure enough, they had it, and I was really eager to watch this. Now, this has a very creative story. This is not so much the horror that we've come to know as horror fans. There's not a lot of blood, there's not a lot of guts. Actually, there's really none. This is more of a psychological horror or a tale of madness. Now, this tells the story of Robert Kraft. Robert Kraft is the president of a department store, which is family run. They also own a cemetery. And every so often, they take turns in kind of moderating the cemetery. Going in, writing checks, making sure everything's okay. And it just happened to be Robert Kraft's turn to do this. He didn't really want to, but he did it anyway because that's what they do. It's a way for them to kind of stay in touch with the people, their customers, and to provide a extra service. Not necessarily you don't go to the department store to buy a plot, but you know what I mean. It's just a way. They don't take a check for it. They don't get paid for it. They dish out the checks for the people who work at the cemetery, and it's kind of like not a community service, but sort of like that, if you get my meaning. So, it is his turn to moderate the cemetery, to write checks, to go in and make sure everything's okay. And he does make friends with the guy who more or less digs the graves and etches the tombstones. And that's where Andy McKee comes in. Now, in this place, there is a huge map of all the plots. And when the plots are bought, they're basically labeled one of two ways, and they're done with pins. And if there's a black pin, the person is dead. and they put a pin in the grave to make sure that they can, be able to tell whether or not the person has died that bought the plot. If there's a white pin, then they just bought the plot and they're alive. That's basically their kind of like their bookkeeping. Sounds weird, but it works. Well, Robert Kraft, being new to doing this, actually makes a mistake and switches a white pin with a black pin and notices that the person died the next day. Actually, it was two people. They died the next day. They got plots for their anniversary or their wedding present, and they just happened to die the next day when he made a mistake and put a black pin in their plots. So, he didn't really think much of it. It happened a few more times, and that's where the psychological part comes in and the descent into madness. Is he doing this? Does he have special powers that he's able to predict the future? Or is it just dumb coincidence? I'm not going to tell you. You're going to have to find out for yourself. This is a fantastic movie. They just don't make movies like this anymore. Granted, I love the horror that they make today, but these movies were very special, for me in particular. Um, it's just a different time. Acting was different. In a way, in my opinion, it was better. I definitely recommend this one if you haven't seen it. I know that Scream Factory put out a Blu-ray of this, which is now going out of print. They also put out a 4-pack, which I actually do have. It has the Face of Marble, I Bury the Living, Four Skulls of Jonathan Drake, and The Snake Woman. But that is also going out of print. So if this is something you're interested in, you're going to kind of have to move quick on it, because sometimes the Midnite movies can be a little bit pricey. But yeah, definitely a recommendation. And if you like what you see in here, hit that like button and subscribe. And until next time, peace.